Well, for more now on this week's testimony and what's ahead in the Chauvin trial, we're joined by CBS News legal analyst Rikki Klieman. Rikki, good morning.
Good morning.
Let's start here. Week one wrapped with expert testimony from the prosecution, many of whom, those witnesses on the stand, were law enforcement focusing on use of force. How effective were they?
If you look at week one, we had all of the emotional anguish testimony of the bystanders. Week two was expert witness week, and it followed the two potential defenses in this case. The defense led in its opening statement by saying that the cause of death was not from Derek Chauvin's knee upon the neck of George Floyd, but was due to heart disease complicated by drug use. The other defense had to do with the fact of excessive force, with the defense saying, no, what he did was not excessive, it was within the training, and that is why those two defenses are so important. So what does the prosecution do? It leads with the training issue, and they had witness after witness who was there to give powerful and yet detached testimony, not as emotional, but certainly full of fervor about what Derek Chauvin did as being outside the training, clearly unnecessary, and ultimately excessive force.
Rikki, how damning is police testimony in a case like this? And some have said there were too many use of force experts called. Do you agree with that?
Look, there are only too many experts called on a subject if the trial runs long. So these jurors were promised a trial that they would be seated as jurors for 3 to 4 weeks. If the case ends within 3 or 4 weeks, which is what I fully expect, nothing is going to be held against the prosecution for having multiple witnesses. Each witness offered a little bit more. And when you have the chief of police, that exceptional testimony that we ordinarily don't see from someone who talks about values, talks about ethics, that has to be mighty powerful indeed. This is the chief for these jurors. He is certainly an admirable figure.
Rikki, the other part of the case that you mentioned was that medical testimony, which we also saw. How damning was that testimony as well, and then how does the defense go about countering it?
Well, to say the prosecution had a good week is my understatement of the morning. They had an exceptionally good week. And why? Because they had witnesses who were highly qualified and were very clear about their opinions. When you have a pulmonologist like Dr. Chauvin come in and literally have a dialogue almost with this jury, in the sense that he had them do demonstrations, when he asked them to touch their necks and to feel certain parts of their body, most of the jurors did it. He had diagrams, he had animation, he was a mesmerizing witness to come to the horrendous conclusion that it was this oxygen deprivation by the weight of Derek Chauvin on the back and on the neck of George Floyd, and that no one could have survived that kind of weight. And then when you have two wonderful witnesses as pathologists who are virtually unimpeachable in Dr. Thomas and the medical examiner, Dr. Baker, who are clear that George Floyd would not have died if he did not have this intervention from law enforcement. They had a great week. The defense has its work cut out for it for next week.
Rikki, we appreciate the insight. Thank you.